Welcome once again. Thanks for tuning in to another one of our video blogs, Back to the Basics Diet. We just concluded a Back to the Basics detox. We're moving on now to a Back to the Basics diet. These two recent videos are going to be a part of a series of Back to the Basics for you. How do we get you back to a healthier lifestyle? It started with how do you spell heartburn relief, and how do you spell insomnia relief, and how do you spell fatigue relief, because those are many of the things that plague us. And I went through and I outlined specific areas that you could engage in and that could help you and how you could improve those areas. It was all leading up to functional status of how do we function? How do we get through our day? Do we have enough energy? Are we productive in our days? So you have to sleep right. You have to digest and assimilate right. You have to have adequate levels and sources of energy. Now we want to roll out a very fundamental approach that is just getting you back to the core basics. Now, why would I say that? I believe it centers around, we have every diet aspect that you can think of today. Paleo diets, which are all protein and vegetables, no grains. I am not an advocate of that. I'll explain. Atkins, all protein, a lot of fat, then you layer in some vegetables, you have to lose weight. That's one concept. You have, I'm forgetting the other one, eat right for your blood types. I mean, they're all different types. You have South Beach, nothing wrong with South Beach type of a diet scenario. But this is not about ascribing to a particular diet, a paleo. I don't know that we're made not to consume some source of grains. I believe our problem is the quality and the type of grains that we're consuming today. Genetically modified wheat, genetically modified foods has a lot to do with the problems that we have. I don't believe that the grains are evil. I believe we consume way too much. We consume way too much wheat. So I'm not going to ascribe to a paleo or to an Atkins or to an eat right for your blood type based upon whether you're positive blood or O or negative. I just think we've got to get back to the basics. We get caught up in a lot of, pardon my French, but nonsense. I think you have to really go down to the very basics. So what are the basics? To me, the basics center around making sure that we have adequate balance of vegetables, protein, etc. I think, and if you really look at the literature, 30 to 35% of your diet should have vegetables. That should be 30 to 35% of your diet should consume of vegetables. If you can't get there initially, so you shoot for 15 or 20. Many of you are at 5. Shoot for 15 to 20% of your diet in vegetables. How about levels of protein? 20 to 25% have to be. You have to be at a minimum around 60 grams of protein a day. You should be somewhere at around 0.8 milligrams to 1 milligram a day for every kilogram of body weight. So let's just say you're roughly about, let's just say you're 180 pounds. You have to have somewhere around 70 to 80 grams basics a day of protein to sustain repair, to help your liver detoxify, because your amino acids that come from those proteins help your liver do the work of detoxification. You also need those proteins broken down into amino acids for neurotransmitter production. So the basics, back to the basics. Plenty of vegetables. We don't eat enough. Protein, adequate sources of protein. We'll get into the specifics in a moment. Beans and legumes. 15 to 20%, maybe 20% of your diet has to be, and I don't know if this is going to come out to 100% because this is just modified thought processes. 20% beans and legumes and grains. We do not eat enough beans and legumes in America. I always try to use some garbanzo beans, chickpeas on a salad. Oh, they're canned. Yeah, I mean, there's issues with whether or not they're canned. Remember, I'm after the basics here today. I'm not after the fine-tuning. I'm after the basics. Grains. I'll talk to you about couscous. I'll talk to you about quinoa, basmati rices. I believe grains are all right in moderation. We just consume way too much. The other area, the final portion of that should be nuts, seeds, and oils and fats. We need to have things like olive oils. And there are a lot of other good sources of oils. You know, folks want to use coconut oil. I have a problem with using that for everything. You want to add it to something or as a condiment, I'm fine with that. Raw nuts and seeds have to be a part of your diet. I eat plenty of almonds and cashews and filbert nuts. Make them a part of your diet. Water. Back to the basics. Water. We should all be consuming lots of water. I had someone come into my office just the other day and say to me, she saw a physician, and that her physician said, who in the world, no physician would ever tell you to drink 64 ounces of water a day? What? Like, how bizarre is that? This is a grown, full-sized woman. We have to have plenty. We do not drink enough water. We need plenty of water. Filtered water, purified water. I'm not going to get into whether it's not distilled. I have my issues with distilled, purified water. Many of you that are listening say, well, geez, I heard it's bad because then the water is acidic. Remember, I'm talking about the basics. You can afford an alkaline-forming water unit, go for it. If not, filtered water, but plenty of it. Drink it alone, away from your meals. Don't drink, 20 ounces of water with your meals. You'll dilute your digestive enzymes. Drink it away from your meals, small amounts of water with your meals. Rotate your foods. Many of us eat the same foods over and over again. We just don't vary. We eat one type of vegetable. We don't like other vegetables. Maybe we only like apples. Venture out. In the Back to the Basics Detox, I talk to you a lot about different types of fruits and vegetables. Eat the rainbow. Berries, blackberries, colors in your fruits and colors with your vegetables. Eat the rainbow. Rotate your foods. Eat different types of foods. Introduce new foods, even if they're not in large amounts. Processed and packaged and prepackaged foods. I have a real issue with that. The more chemicals you consume, the greater tendency you will have to become addicted to those foods because you're addicted to the chemicals and the processed chemicals. And I can tell you, I have a ton of literature that will document that you can make laboratory animals, Sprague Dawley rats, etc., fat just by giving them MSG-related types of compounds. It interferes with the hypothalamus, how the body responds to appetite, satiety, hunger. You've got to get the processed, prepackaged foods out of your diet. Remember, this is the basics. Back to the basics. Chew your foods well, slow down. Chew your foods well, slow down when you eat. Eat in moderation. What's the old saying? Don't live to eat to live. We are too caught up with, some folks haven't even finished breakfast and they're worried about what they're going to have for lunch and for dinner that day. Make sure that you're thinking in a bigger picture concept. You need food, see it as your fuel. Don't make it your idol, and don't make it a way for you to deal with other issues, anxieties and fears and so on, because that's what many, many, many of us do. That's a whole other subject. Maybe that's another Back to the Basics that we'll get to. Fruits. I would recommend that you eat your fruits as snacks between meals. Eat apples, eat pears, eat figs. I love figs. Eat fruits away from your meals. Eat them between meals. Eat them with a handful of nuts. Balance that sugar, the fructose that you're getting in that fruit, with some raw nuts. Oh my, nuts have a lot of fat. You keep talking, yeah, they do. I didn't say eat a pound of them, but they're monounsaturated. The types that I've recommended to you, they're high quality. You need good fats. Just don't eat tons of them. Let's move on to just some basic thoughts, if you want to say more from a dieting standpoint. Do not eat late at night. Try to get away from eating after 7. Now, this is more diet related, but I believe it falls in the Back to the Basics diet. I say diet, losing weight. This is not really about losing weight. This is just about cleaning you up. Try to stay away from foods after 7. Break the fast. You should really go maybe 7:30 that evening to maybe your breakfast the next morning, whatever you have. Talk to you about that in a moment as well. And really not eat a lot through the course of the night. It interferes with leptin and ghrelin, the signaling as to how the body says, I've had enough, I don't need more, I have plenty stored, we don't need to store anymore. You don't want to interfere with that signaling. eating continuously, pretty much round the clock, if you will, interferes with signaling. Avoid late night eating. So vegetables, only thing I'm going to say about that is eat more low starch vegetables. We'll have some accompanying material, hopefully by the time this video is done as well, that will be support to this. What are low starch vegetables? What are high starch vegetables? High starch vegetables are going to be corns, rices, potatoes. Those are high starch. We don't want many of those, especially corn really should go. Proteins, wild caught fish, tilapia, halibut, flounder, cold water fishes. If you're going to do salmon, hopefully it's not farm raised. Lamb, organic beefs, buffalo, bison, organic chicken, all good sources of protein. Grains, I mentioned, quinoa, couscous. Love steel cut oats. You should make that a part of your breakfast routine. Basmati rices, Ezekiel 4-9 bread. Let me just spend a moment on Ezekiel. Sprouted grains, no processing in any of their grains that they use. There is no yeast. There's no added components to it. They're all sprouted grain. They are balanced. Lentil and soy and wheat. It's a mixture of grains that are higher in protein, high in fiber, lower in carbohydrate, nothing processed. It's a great, if you want to say, grain for you to consume. I have made it a part of my diet for years. You should consider it as well. I use nut butters on them, etc. Beans and legumes. I'm astounded at times at how many people do not like beans and legumes, and I'm not real sure why. Lentil soups could be one of the best things that you consume. Learn how to make a lentil soup. It alkalinizes you. It's higher in protein. It's high in fiber. Stabilizes your blood sugars. Beans and legumes are your friend. They're low glycemic index foods. Stabilize the blood sugars, as mentioned. Will help you if you're trying to lose weight. Will help balance hypoglycemic tendencies. Just a good food stuff. High quality, good nutrient value, very low downside. Oils, love olive oil. A lot of new oils out there. People rages on coconut oil, etc. I still don't believe, and I mean this wholeheartedly, that you can find an oil that is as high in monounsaturated fats, has so many quality antioxidants in it, etc. There is nothing that right now still supersedes the quality of what you receive from consuming olive oil. Extra virgin, preferably organic if you can afford it. I've talked about fruits, nuts, seeds, eat them together. Pumpkin seeds, raw nuts, fruits, eat them and use them as snacks between your meals. And why would I say that? Because so many times we snack on the wrong types of things. So you have to have options. And the reason why I like those options, I do this myself, because it helps to stabilize your blood sugars. It maintains your energy levels through the day. So if you've eaten a decent breakfast, which could be scrambled eggs with literally some sauteed vegetables, it could be steel cut oats with some shaved or cut up walnuts and almonds and some blueberries and blackberries with cinnamon. Just add some things to it. You have plenty of options. How about a protein smoothie? We have a New Zealand way that is non-hormone, no hormones. We have pea plant sources of protein if you would rather go vegetarian. I often, 4 or 5 days a week, make protein smoothies. I'll use 2 scoops of the protein, a banana, some other source of fruit, almond milk, rice milk, or soy milk. I don't use dairy. Do not be afraid. You say, I'm busy. Do not skip your breakfast. Make that. You can get 20, 30, up to 40 grams of protein, good sources of carbohydrates, nutrient-dense food. You can even throw a scoop of an almond butter in there as well. Do not be afraid of protein smoothies. Limit your alcohol. Limit your condiments. They're a death knell. If you're trying to lose weight, I will tell you, they are loaded with sugars. Talked about that in the Back to Basics Detox. This is Back to Basics diet, and this is Back to Basics. That doesn't mean you never use a condiment. You should be aware of the chemicals, the amount of sugar, the amount of flavorings and additives that they have. Many foods that you use as add-ons have a lot of MSG, are loaded with high fructose corn syrup. They're loaded with chemicals that are addictive to your taste buds. They're loaded with sugar, and I'm going to do just one of these days, just an entire video just on high fructose corn syrup, on what I believe are the dangers of high fructose corn syrup, how it interferes with a lot of our brain signaling. Alcohol limited. Luncheon meat should be limited unless you can get some chicken that is real chicken breast that's sliced down, turkey that's real sliced down turkey, not these compressed luncheon meats. Hey, Italian background, love salami, love those foods, really do not eat them other than maybe a holiday. That's it. Why? Nitrates, nitrosamines induce headaches, they're not good for you, basically, is what it comes down to. Limit the refined products. I've mentioned that earlier. I think you get the drift. If you really looked at it, the bulk of your diet should come from foods that are real live foods, very minimally processed, limited chemicals, limited sugars, limited white, limited refined. That's a back to basics diet for you. I hope you're enjoying these series. As mentioned, we will have some written material. That's the goal, so that we can give you, this should be the jump start, the impetus for you to latch onto, and then we want to put some teeth to what we want you to do going forward. We'll give you some written material that can help you and bless you. God bless you. Thanks for viewing, and stay tuned, Lord willing, for the next video. Take care.